Vodafonos lettem. 1 éve töprengek. Igen, lehettem volna kicsit gyorsabb.
Itt végre olyan letöltési sebesség jár nekem, amivel könnyedén nézhetek filmeket online. Jár, hogy bárhonnan azonnal címlapra kerüljek.
És nem azért jár, mert híres vagyok.
Jár az is, hogy azonnal megkapjam a rajongói e-maileket.
Pedig sokat kapok, nagy képekkel.
Minden vodásnak jár a szupersebesség. Válts te is, lépj be a digitális kánaánba, és élvezd ki a nyarat. Vodafone, csak rólad szól.
Vodafonos lettem. 1 éve töprengek. Igen, lehettem volna kicsit gyorsabb.
Itt végre olyan letöltési sebesség jár nekem, amivel könnyedén nézhetek filmeket online. Jár, hogy bárhonnan azonnal címlapra kerüljek.
És nem azért jár, mert híres vagyok.
Jár az is, hogy azonnal megkapjam a rajongói e-maileket.
Pedig sokat kapok,
Nagy képekkel.
Minden vodásnak jár a szupersebesség. Válts te is, lépj be a digitális kánaánba, és élvezd ki a nyarat. Vodafone, csak rólad szól.
Vodafonos lettem. 1 éve töprengek. Igen, lehettem volna kicsit gyorsabb.
Itt végre olyan letöltési sebesség jár nekem, amivel könnyedén nézhetek filmeket online. Jár, hogy bárhonnan azonnal címlapra kerüljek.
És nem azért jár, mert híres vagyok.
Jár az is, hogy azonnal megkapjam a rajongói e-maileket.
Pedig sokat kapok,
Nagy képekkel.
Minden vodásnak jár a szupersebesség. Válts te is, lépj be a digitális kánaánba, és élvezd ki a nyarat. Vodafone, csak rólad szól.
Hát jól van, hadd áruljam el neked Isten egy aprócska műhelytitkát. Isten imád leskelődni, nagy mókamester, gondolj csak bele. Megajándékozza az embert az ösztöneivel. Igazán rendkívül becses ajándék. És aztán mit csinál? Esküszöm, csak is a maga szórakoztatására, hogy jókat mulathasson a kozmikus, privát vetítőtermében, mindenre sorra tilalomfát állít. Utánozhatatlan poén. Nézd, de ne érintsd! Érintsd, de meg ne ízleld! Ízleld, de le ne nyeld! És míg te zavartan ugrálsz egyik lábadról a másikra, ő vajon mit csinál? Akkorákat röhög rajtad, hogy majd megszakad belé! Szemellenzős! Szadista! Abszolút nem törődöm, uraság! Őt imádjam netán! Soha! Ez alapigasság, Kevin. Az önimádat. Ez a természetes kábítószer. Én nem mondom azt, hogy nem szeretted Mariant, Kevin. Csak egy kissé jobban el voltál foglalva valaki mással. Önmagaddal. Tudod, mit mondok? A bűntudat olyan, mint egy nagyságtégla. Csak egyet kell tenned. Megszabadulod tőle.
Hé, tudom mindentől keresztül.
marafonos lettem. 1 éve töprengek. Igen, lehettem volna kicsit gyorsabb. Itt végre olyan letöltési sebesség jár nekem, amivel könnyedén nézhetek filmeket online. Jár, hogy bárhonnan azonnal címlapra kerüljek. És nem azért jár, mert híres vagyok. Jár az is, hogy azonnal megkapjam a rajongói e-maileket, pedig sokat kapok, nagy képekkel. Minden vadásnak jár a szupersebesség. Válts te is, lépj be a digitális Kánaánba, és élvezd ki a nyarat. Vodafone, csak rólad szól.
Befejeztem, bíró úr.
digitális Kánaánba, és élvezd ki a nyarat. Lépj be a digitális Kánaánba, és élvezd ki a nyarat.
She's on the dark side. Neutralize every man inside. Love you, 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 love
My next guest was used also in worshiping the devil, participated in human sacrifice rituals and cannibalism. She says her family has been involved in rituals for generations. She is currently in extensive therapy, suffers from multiple personality disorder, meaning she's blocked out many of the terrifying and painful memories of her childhood, meet Rachel, who is also in disguise to protect her identity. You come from generations of ritualistic abuse?
Yes, my family has an extensive family tree, and they keep track of who's been involved and who hasn't been involved. And it's gone back to, like, 1700.
And so you were...
Right. I was born into a family that believes in this.
And does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl?
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Really? And so who knows about it? Lots of people now.
I talked to a police detective in the Chicago area, and several of my friends know, and I've spoke publicly before. And
so when you were brought up in this kind of evilness, did you just think it was normal?
I've blocked out a lot of the memories I had because of my multiple personality disorder. But yes, I mean, it's like if you grow up with something, you think it's normal. Mm-hmm. I always thought.
So what kinds of things? You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to, you know.
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in our family. No one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not, or they would supposedly go away for a while and then come back. The other thing I want to point out, not all Jewish people sacrifice babies. I mean, no, that's not a very
typical thing.
I just want to point that out.
This is the first time I heard of any Jewish people sacrificing babies. But anyway, so you witnessed the sacrifice.
Right. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Uh-huh. Power. And so, were you ever used? Were you ever used yourself?
I was molested. I was raped several times.
Mm-hmm. And what's your mother doing?
She's
in all of this. What's her role in all of this?
I'm not exactly what her role is. I haven't, recovered all of my memories, but her family was extremely involved. Mm-hmm. She brought me to it. Mm-hmm. Both of my parents brought me to it.
And where is she now?
She lives in the Chicago metropolitan area. She's on the Human Relations Commission of the town that she lives in, and she's an upstanding citizen. Nobody would suspect her.
Were you raised with a sense of right and wrong, Rachel?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I had both. I mean, to the outside world, everything we did was proper and right, and then there were the nights that things changed, that things just got turned around. What was wrong was right, and what was right was wrong. That's what helps to create somebody, to develop MPD.
Mm-hmm. Multiple personality.
Right.
Now, in your family, did you all call it worshiping the devil?
No,
Rachel,
I don't know.
It was just evil, these things you did.
Right. Well, I said it was evil, and they said it was good. There's a book that I had just come across called Lilith's Cave, which is a book of Jewish mysticism and supernatural, and there's a lot in that book that relates to what I, endured when I was a child.
És még valami. Bocs, Balázs.
Egy nagyon egyszerű és nagyon általános üzenetet próbáltunk átadni ezzel a filmmel, azt, hogy a Vodafone-nál van a leggyorsabb mobil internet Magyarországon, és ennek a felhasználói élményeiről és a lehetőségeiről próbáltunk megbeszélni. Azt gondoltuk, hogy Balázs megjelenhetne úgy, mintha folyamatosan az interneten lenne.
Meg vagyunk szénia, köszi!
Jaj, felvétel! 3, 2, 1, action!
Let's do it a couple times.
Roll camera, action!
Down. Up. Can you play backwards?
Először Balást egy ünnepségen látjuk, ami arról szól, hogy ő végre vadás lett.
Emelkedett pillanatként, tök nyugisan, mert azért magabiztos vagy, meg minden.
Vodafonos lettem. Vodafonos lettem.
Egyes először.
Vodafonos lettem. 1 éve több engem. Igen. Nagyjából hangulatában ugyanez. És misztikusabb, suttogósabb. Vodafonos lettem. 1 éve több engem. Igen, lehettem volna egy kicsit gyorsabb.
Köszönöm szépen, ezzel meg vagyunk. Át fogunk állni.
Ugye nagy.
Mehet a függöny, felvétel.
Megpillantunk a kezében egy okostelefon, és látjuk, hogy az, ahol ő van, az tulajdonképpen ezen az okostelefonon van.
Tessék!
Nekünk vadásoknak okostelefon jár. Felokosított okostelefont, ugyan már?
Megkap egy tabletet, és a tableten már egy hatalmas mezőn van, egy gyönyörű helyen. A tabletet, mint egy távirányítót használva beindítja a filmet, égbolton, egy hatalmas mozi.
Tessék!
Itt végre olyan letöltési sebesség jár nekem, amivel könnyedén nézhetek filmeket online.
Ilyen a májusi forgatás.
Nekünk vadásoknak jár, hogy szupergyors internetünk legyen.
És tessék! Néha a fejeddel finoman mozdulj ki jobbra-balra, jó? Csak egy kicsit, mintha valamit néznél.
Press this button and it flashes the whole action.
Sziasztok, Dám vagyok.
Balázs motorozás közben készít magáról egy felvételt, ami fölkerül a Facebookra.
Figyelj, és action!
Nekünk vadásoknak jár, hogy okostelefonnal azonnal megtaláljuk a legjobb helyeket.
A Facebookot ő már a stúdióban nézi, persze ez a stúdió is egy ilyen szimbolikus tér a mi esetünkben.
És?
Emberek lapokat forgatnak. Utoljára a 60-as években csináltak ilyet nálunk, nagyon-nagyon jól sikerült.
Jár az is, hogy azonnal megkapjam a rajongó e-maileket.
Ezek a rajongók illusztrálják szimbolikus módon azt, hogy Balázs nagyon sok nagyméretű képet kap.
Meg vagyunk szénia, köszi.
Az elképzeléseink szerint gyönyörű lesz.
Gyalogos lettem. 1 éve töprengek. Igen, lehettem volna kicsit gyorsabb.
Itt végre olyan letöltési sebesség jár nekem, amivel könnyedén nézhetek filmeket online. Jár, hogy bárhonnan azonnal címlapra kerüljek.
És nem azért jár, mert híres vagyok.
Jár az is, hogy azonnal megkapjam a rajongói e-maileket.
Pedig sokat kapok, nagy képekkel.
Minden vodásnak jár a szupersebesség. Válts te is, lépj be a digitális kánaánba, és élvezd ki a nyarat. Vodafone, csak rólad szól.
the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips. Right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, you can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has the purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
you sell.
Everything is in there.
Our chip is a tiny miniaturized RFID, or radio frequency identification microchip. It's 11 millimeters by 1 millimeter. It's about the size of a grain of rice.
Well, we've got one sitting there by a penny to give us a little perspective of the size. Very
Correct.
tiny. You implant it under the skin how?
It gets injected, just like getting a shot of penicillin or any medicine that you would get in a doctor's office. It goes in the upper right arm, which is the area that our physicians have chosen for ease of access as well as biocompatibility.
All right. Show me how this works, because you've got a scanner here, and you have a chip implanted. Is it underneath your right arm?
It's in the right arm. You power up a scanner, and you simply scan the arm. And once you scan the arm, you'll see that the identification information...
And on the laptop here you have it hooked up to, it says some number, but that doesn't tell me anything about your health condition now. From that number, they access your health records.
Right, that's correct. If you go into further detail on the database about Scott Silverman, it'll have my driver's license information, it'll have medical information, it'll have financial information, and it'll have security information for ingress and egress into facilities. In the upper right arm, which is the area that our physicians have chosen for ease of access as well as biocompatibility. Right?
The way that this can be done with a very few people, at the peak that is because if you look at every organization today, be it a university, a school, a government, a secret society, anything, a multinational company, business of any kind, they're structured as a pyramid, which works like this. In any organization, you've got a very, very few people at the peak of the pyramid. That very few people know exactly what that organization's about, what its real agenda is, what it's really trying to achieve. The further you come down from that peak in any organization, you're meeting more and more and more people who know less and less and less and less about what the organization's really about. They only know their part. The CIA call this compartmentalization. keeping from everyone else in the pyramid how what they're doing in apparent innocence links in with what other people are doing in apparent innocence to produce a very sinister pattern. The Freemasons are a classic example of this. When you say that the Freemason secret society is involved, people think that you must be saying that every Freemason wants to manipulate the world to global dictatorship. Utterly ridiculous. Of course they don't. But if you look at the Freemason structure, the vast overwhelming majority of Freemasons in the world, they never get higher than the bottom 3 levels of degree, the overwhelming majority. But in the Scottish rite of Freemasonry, which pervades much of world politics, particularly in America and other areas, there's another 30 degrees above that to the 33rd degree, which the vast majority of Freemasons never get near. And there's another 13 levels not officially accepted to exist, which some people call Illuminati degrees, which at that level, the Freemason secret society is in a different universe to the part where the vast majority of Freemasons exist right down here. Compartmentalization. This is how it works. So every one of these institutions that control the direction of the world and our daily lives is a pyramid. The banking system is a pyramid. You go into the local bank, the person you meet across the counter won't even know what's going on in the bank manager's office behind them, let alone what's going on at board level and higher. So the banking system is a pyramid going to a peak. The intelligence agency network in the world is a pyramid going to a peak. The multinational company network is a pyramid. So is the global media, and so on. And there is a global pyramid within which all these work, in which the peaks of all these individual pyramids, banking, business, media, etc., fuse into one peak. And up there, it's speculated by many people, there perhaps may be no more than 13 families, 13 people at the peak, pervading down through these different levels the same basic policy, which is pushing the world towards more and more centralization of power. There is this like cozy little myth that is perpetuated between politicians and the media. Politicians walk the world stage as if they are the final arbiters of power in the world. So when a president speaks, the cameras run and it's flashed around the world, prime ministers and such like. The media report the world as if presidents and prime ministers are the final arbiters and decision makers in the world, which means that the people above the level of presidents and prime ministers that really make the decisions, they're never looked at or exposed by the mainstream media because they're not accepted to exist. And there are several key mind manipulation techniques which are very, very powerful propaganda tools. The most effective and the most powerful, and it's used on us all the time, is something I call problem, reaction, solution. It's a cracker, this one. It's a mind manipulation technique that avoids not only opposition to what is the goal of the manipulators, it actually manipulates people to demand they do what they want to do anyway. And it's happening all the time. Once you see this technique and how it works, you watch the news and read the newspapers in a completely different light because you start to see it happening. It works like this. You start by secretly creating a problem in the world and making sure someone else is blamed for it in the public arena, in the public mind. It could be a run on a currency, it could be a government collapse. At its most extreme, it could be a war, because the 2 world wars in this century were funded, all sides were funded by the same people. Provable. The same people that funded the Allies in the Second World War and funded the Soviet Union also funded Hitler. Why would they do that? Why would someone want to fund all sides in a war? What is good is a war? Well, first of all, on one level, it makes vast amounts of money if you're lending money to all sides and you're also selling them lots of arms and all that stuff. But the fundamental reason for a war is to change the nature of post-war society. And what we saw in the First World War and the Second World War were massive global examples of problem, reaction, solution, which work like this. The problems created secretly. You then use the media, which isn't difficult, to wind up public opinion in relation to your manufactured problem to the point where public opinion utters the classic words, "Something must be done, this can't go on," which is always followed by, "Give my power away, what are they gonna do about it?" And at that point, those who created the problem and got someone else to be blamed for it wound up that public reaction, then openly in the public arena, in the parliaments of the world, in the newspapers and on the television, offer the solutions to the problems they have created. And in doing so, they get vast numbers of people to demand what they want to do anyway. For instance, if you want more cameras in the streets, crikey, they're going up all over the place in Britain. You want more cameras in the streets, you want a more armed police force, you want more authoritarian laws, greater erosions of freedom, and you want the public to demand you do it, then get the public frightened of crime. Either let society break down so there is more crime, or emphasize crime to be worse than it really is in some areas. Get people frightened, and the first thing people do when they're in fear about something is they look for someone out there to protect them from what they're frightened of. So, get people frightened that they're going to be burgled, get people frightened they're going to be mugged in the street, and they'll demand you take the freedoms away. They'll demand cameras in the streets and more authoritarian laws.
akkor ő már a stúdióban nézi, persze ez a stúdió is egy ilyen szimbolikus tér a mi esetünkben.
I don't see how sincerity could be involved in such a silly so-called religion.
He have completely sold himself to the devil. He have no part of God. Everything he do over there is no part of God. Nothing God had anything to do with. It's something he created in his own mind.
I think they're nuts. No, they come in, you know, they're nice doctors and lawyers and very prominent people. And then they come in and they turn into completely different people.
In nomine Satanas, Lucifer excelsis Dei. In the name of our most exalted God, Satan, Lucifer, I command thee to come forth. Come forth, and bestow these blessings of hell upon us. Come forth by these names. Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Shemham Farash, Shemham Farash, Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
These rituals consist of recreations of old ceremonies that have been practiced for centuries. We recreate the ceremonies of the Knights Templars, a noble group of gentlemen who, because of social pressures, made it very obvious that they were the standard bearers of Christianity. We feel that in the light of what society has shown us in the last year or two, we have pretty much exemplified what the Knights Templars were doing, except we, of course, climate-wise, don't have to worry about calling ourselves Christians. We call ourselves Satanists. We feel that the so-called carnal side of man, or the carnal nature of man, is the most important. We feel the soul is just a pittance. It's something that's sort of wrung out. Like if you squeeze an orange, you get a few drops of juice out of it, and certainly this can be the essence. But this doesn't mean that the orange is any less important simply because the juice comes out of it. We feel that the body of man, the carnal symbolism of man, is by far the most important. We feel true transcendentalism is to rise above the inventions, the puerile inventions of man for his own masochistic needs, perhaps, in the way of spiritual or soul guidance, and recognize his baser instincts, his carnal existence, as the end byproduct and as the epitome, the height of all great creation. In other words, this is the opposite It's the very opposite, very adverse of all other religions. And it's high time a religion was born that recognized the fleshly existence of man.
Friend and companion of the night, thou who rejoicest in the baying of dogs and spilt blood, who wanderest in the midst of shades among the tombs, who longest for blood and bringest terror to mortals. Gorgo, Mormo, thousand-faced moon, look favorably on our sacrifices. Shemham Farash.
Shemham Farash.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Open wide the gates of hell, and come forth by these names: Adremelech, Astaroth, Moloch.
Well, it occurred to me for many, many years that there was a large gray area between psychiatry and religion that was untapped, and no religion had ever been based on man's carnal needs or his fleshly pursuits. All religions are based on abstinence rather than indulgence, and all religions, therefore, have to be based on fear. Well, we don't feel that fear is necessary to base a religion on. The fact that religions for thousands of years have been telling people what they should do and what they shouldn't do according to the basic whims of a person who might be running the show is very understandable. We're realists, we Satanists, but we also feel that a person has to be good to themselves before they can be good to other people. So we feel the greatest sin of all is self-deceit. This is a very selfish religion. We believe in greed, we believe in selfishness, we believe in all of the lustful thoughts that motivate man, because this is man's natural feeling. This is based on what man naturally would do. Sexual freedom is something we feel is very important as a necessary requisite of the Satanic Church. It isn't the most important thing, but certainly it's an elective. We feel a person should be free to indulge in all of the so-called fetishes, all of the so-called aberrations that they would so desire, as long as they don't hurt anyone that doesn't deserve or wish to be hurt. As far as the torture implements go, these things, we must remember, at one time were not simply torture implements, they were evangelical persuaders. And most of these things are from the Inquisition, and this type of device was known as a holy water sprinkler at one time, and also called the Morning Star. And so these things represent man's inhumanity to man, but also represent something to the Satanist much more important than that, that right is based on might, and the victor, whether they're right or whether they're wrong idealistically, is always considered right. I guess the two most popular reasons that people join the church is because either they're just disgusted, they're just fed up with the sanctimonious pussyfooting around that other religions have given them, and they're just tired of saying one thing and practicing another, and they'd like to at least get together with other people. And after all, man is a social animal, and no different than any other animal, except he's probably the most vicious of all animals. And he wants to get together with other people that feel the same way he does. And why not belong to a religion or to a group of people that at least believe in the same philosophy? A man came to me the other day, and he said that it was just terrible. When he joined the Satanic Church, he was masturbating just about every day. And now he's masturbating 2 and sometimes 3 times a day. And he's very happy, much happier than he's ever been before.
Last week, too, on top of that. He was really talking about me.
We feel guilt is a necessary thing, not necessary that it's practiced at all times, but we're stuck with it. We have it in our collective unconscious. We have a certain amount of feeling of apprehension for things we've done because we're taught from childhood not to do certain things. Any attempt to sort of scrape the psyche clean is only going to make us much more, and certainly much more fraught with frustrations and tensions. So what we've done is just reverse the procedure. Instead of trying to free ourselves, we've taken all these hang-ups, we've turned them into useful situations. If you're going to be a sinner, be the best sinner on the block. If you're going to do something that's naughty, do it. And realize that you're doing something naughty and enjoy it. Myself, I have naturally many of the same problems, the trials and tribulations of any regular minister, of any other church. The only thing that really presents a difference is the fact that I cannot perhaps be sanctimonious about things, but I can do anything that I want to. I can pursue any kind of lustful desires that I might feel. I can engage in any activities that are so-called sinful activities and not really worry about any ecumenical councils making it right for me to do these things. It seems that most religions now are buying oats for a dead horse. We feel that all religions are coming around to Satanism. We're in the very throes of a new satanic age. The evidence is all around us. All we have to do is look at it.